Welcome back to my Spanish kitchen. Today it's the outdoor kitchen, or horno de leña, because the day is spectacular here in the valley. It's crisp and cool, but we've got a blue sky and we've got clouds just wisping by. So we thought, why not celebrate when we can? Because pretty soon, when we get closer to Christmas, we're gonna have pretty chilly weather. We've even had snow here last year, and it won't be a time that we go out and put the oven to use to do this dish. It's a classic dish known as lubina and sal, also dorado and sal, or any kind of pescado and sal, any kind of fish that you want to bake by encrusting it in some salt. I'm going to be stuffing this with some lemon, some fresh herbs that I just picked out of the garden, some sage and some rosemary. But the beauty of this fish that I got at the fishmonger yesterday is it's so fresh, and I told them I was going to be preparing it in a wood oven or an horno. So they knew not to slit the belly, but to go right through the gills and clean the fish from the inside out. Also, they knew to not take off the scales, because the scales help protect the fish and seal it in from the salt while it's baking. This is super simple. It won't take us long to do. As long as the oven is at 200 degrees centigrade, we'll be ready to go. So let's get started. We're ready for the first simple part of this process, which is getting the salt bed ready. And in fact, when you go to the store, you'll find bags of salt specifically designed for using in fish, crusting it over, because it's such a common way to prepare it. So I've taken 2 kilos of salt, and I'm going to add to that about 200 grams of water and see if that makes enough of a mix. And the nice thing about this is, if you remember when you're a kid and you're making a sandcastle, it's just the texture that you want. The simplest thing for me to do is to take this fish, place it here, and just put a little salt around the edge so I know where that fish is going to lie. And that helps me make a bed that'll fit just according to where the fish is going to be. And now I lift it up, and I can start putting all the salt down right in that edge and patting it down, and basically giving the fish a really nice bed to lay on. The next thing I'm going to do is add some slices of lemon. You can add lemon or oranges, any kind of aromatics you want to, or nothing. Many times, Spanish households simply lay the fish right on top of the salt. But I really enjoy kicking up the flavor a little bit by adding some herbs like this sage from our garden and a little bit of rosemary, and this will mimic the same herbs that I'm using inside the fish. Now we're going to set our fish right on top of this bed. Now the next part is doing the same thing, but filling the inside of the fish. So all I have to do is open up the gill and start putting our herbs and our lemons right down in the body of the fish. The other beautiful thing about doing it this way is you don't lose any of the flavor. I'll put one more in as it's cooking, because it stays all completely encased inside. And I'll see if I can get a piece of sage in here. Now that I've stuffed the inside of this fish with all these wonderful herbs, I can lay it down, dress it with some olive oil. This is also not a requirement, but I've learned my lesson. Olive oil makes everything look and taste better, and it gives it a really nice flavor when the fish is done. And the oil I'm using today is a really classic Spanish style, a varietal called Oil Blanca. And Oe Blanca is wonderful with fish because it's not too bitter, it's not too sweet, but it has a really grassy flavor and brings out all this wonderful flavor. And obviously, the bees like it too. And now I'm going to finish off the top with a few more slices of lemon. And a little bit of herbs. And maybe just one here. Because remember, we're going to cover this all with more salt. And now all I have to do is encase this entire fish in salt. And we'll probably need more because this is such a big fish, but I happen to have another bag of salt to use with this. Everything's ready to go into the oven. I finished encasing the fish. One of the tricks that they always do here is to leave the head open so you can see the eye, because a classic way of knowing if fish is ready or not is the eye milky white? But another trick I'm going to do is to make sure that I use my internal temperature gauge, because fish, to be perfectly done, should be at about 145 degrees Fahrenheit and 65 degrees centigrade. So that's what we're going to be shooting for. And George has gotten the oven up to about 250, but it's going to drop a lot as soon as we put the fish in. And we want it to cook at about 200 centigrade for give or take 30 minutes. And I think it should be done. So let me get in here. I have a big fire going. By the way, this thing weighs a ton. I've got about 7 pounds of salt, plus the weight of the fish, plus the weight of this dish. It's heavy. So if you ever make a dish like this, be extra careful with how you put it in there. And we'll come back in about 10 minutes just to check on it, make sure it doesn't need to be rotated. We've got exactly the temperature we want, 200. So let's sneak a little peek in here, see what's going on. It's a little hard to see, but you see the coals, the fish, everything looks good, and we're halfway there. It's been a little bit more than a half an hour. Typically, depending on the size of the fish, you're going to cook between 25, 35 minutes. You can see that George has kept this temperature right at 200, which is perfect. It looks beautiful, and it looks like it's ready, but let's check it. So I'm just going to insert that. 67.6. We wanted to be at 65. It's perfectly done. So I think we're ready to go. This is my favorite part. Give me a hammer, hard crust, and let's see if I can't break this up a little bit. The skin inside is brown and roasted just right. All I have to do now is to brush this fish off. The next thing we're going to do is cut through the belly. Oh my goodness, look at this. Wow, wow. Take a look at that. It's stunning. It's roasted, it's tender. This is the best fish ever. And it smells amazing. I'm going to take a taste before anybody gets here so I can make sure it's as good as it looks. Oh, wow. I can't describe how fabulous this is. It's just perfect. It's not salty at all. It's got this wonderful flavor of the herbs that we included in it, beautiful lemon flavor, and it flakes like nothing. Thanks so much for joining me today in my Spanish kitchen. even though we had an outdoor adventure. It's a perfect way to end the season because this is at the end of season 1 on My Spanish Kitchen. Next year, we'll return with more adventures in Spain, more fun things to eat, more fun ingredients to explore, all part of the wonderful life George and I are both having in Spain, and we are so glad you guys can join us. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you soon. Ciao.